Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg, and today we're going to do my top 10 games of 2017. Well, for me, this year in gaming had a few very bright spots in gaming. Like some really freaking good games came out this year, but not that many for me. It was a little tricky to put this list together, whereas other years just like, oh, yeah, this one. It's like, yeah, I guess that could go in top 10, sure. And every year is different, and not to say this was a bad year. Like I said, we got some real highlights, some hallmarks of gaming history this year. But it wasn't just a flood of incredible games all year long, which, that's just how it is. And, it was a year without a Soulsborne game. So there's that. That always sucks. But maybe next year. All right, so let's get into the list. First up is an honorable mention. I gotta give an honorable mention to this, just due to time played. I have to give an honorable mention to the Monster Hunter World Beta. This was only available for 7 days or something like that of the year. That's it. It's just 7 days. But man, I played the shit out of it. Many hours into that little beta. Greatest beta of all time. Of all time. I had, if I counted it, it would easily be in my top 5 for the year. I had more fun with that than Super Mario Odyssey. Just nuts. When the game actually comes out next year, it's pretty clear it's going to be one of the top games of 2018, I think. So, but it is just a beta, so I couldn't actually count it as a game. It's just a little demo, a little tease. So that's why it gets the honorable mention. All right, so number 10 for this year, 2017, was Resident Evil 7. So this game, I did a full Let's Play of. And, Resident Evil 4 was a great game. Everybody likes Resident Evil 4. I really never played any of the earlier ones. I played 5. I thought 5 was all right. 5 was decent. 6, I think I only played the demo or whatever of 6, so I don't know what to say about that. So I thought the series was going in a certain direction, and they were focused on that, but I think the sales numbers were hurting. I think they needed to reinvent things. And so I think with 7, they went back to the drawing board a little bit. And for the better, I believe. 7 was not too shabby. It's really not that. The whole genre is really not my thing. So I guess it just stands to, as testament of that it was a good game, that I actually played all the way through it. There was definitely some spooky moments. There's definitely some odd moments. It's still wrapped up in the same sort of Resident Evil trademarked ridiculous nonsense story that they love, but yeah, there was definitely some bright spots in that game of thrilling gameplay and some interesting moments. I can't say that I'm thrilled about RE8. just because, again, I'm not a huge fan of the genre. I don't like horror games in general. Not to say I won't play 8, and I don't regret playing 7. So, there you have it. I mean, it was good, but it's number 10 on the list of, not an incredible year overall for me. It squeaked in there due to lack of competition, I suppose. Number 9 is Prey, which I didn't know what to really expect of Prey. It's developed by the Dishonored guys, and I do love those games, so I thought, okay, this will be good, but Prey goes a bit more on the horror than I like. I just did not care for the entire concept of the mimics taking shape of objects in a room. I mean, from a game design perspective, it's freaking brilliant. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely wonderful. Really brilliant stuff. And definitely a strong selling point for the whole game. For plenty of people, but for me, that's just like, fuck that, and fuck you, and fuck all that. No. But aside from that, there was a lot of, actual interesting gameplay mechanics that I did appreciate. Story was... Yeah, the story got a little off the rails. It definitely got a little wild, and then suddenly, like, giant alien blob things are showing up, and blah, blah, blah. Again, it was a really solid game. I can tell that this is a really well-made game, but again, it just has a bit more horror than I appreciate in a video game. And that just turns me off. Just a little bit. It's just like, I don't want to play a game that stresses me out like that. So it's a good game. But if they announced Prey 2, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, I can't wait. Can't wait for Prey 2. So there you have it again. And so overall, I liked it better than RE7 because it toned down the horror a little bit. You just had these sort of jump scares in every room, but at least you could just shotgun everything, so that's good. All right, number 8 is Middle-earth: Shadow of War. So, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor was a very interesting game, a bit of a surprise for a lot of people, I think, that, suddenly we get this really well-made Middle-earth, Lord of the Rings type game with its own story and a really interesting gameplay mechanic in the whole Nemesis system. So I was definitely excited about the sequel, Shadow of War. And it definitely... it definitely delivered as far as more of the same. I think, if you really just wanted more of the same type of stuff you got in Shadow of Mordor and just keep piling it on the same stuff. Yeah, I love this. Yeah, give me a second helping, That's what you got pretty much. And there were some improvements, there were some additional things. They added the sieging type thing, and you could really build an army with, this endless supply of orcs that you were encountering. The sieging really doesn't interest me. I think it got stale fairly quickly. And so what you're left with then is really just, again, more of the same. And it's good. It was good the first time, and it's good the second time. But after that, I feel like they really need to change this up, and I'm not sure that they're going to do it enough. I feel like the third game, I'm just reading the Wikipedia page now for the plot. I don't know if I missed this or what. It says, decades later, Talion succumbs to the corruption of Isildur's ring and joins Sauron's forces in Nazgul. This is a spoiler, by the way. Screw you. Uh, where he goes with the others to hunt Frodo and the One Ring. However, with the destruction of Sauron and the One Ring, Talion dies with the rest of the Nazgul and his spirit is freed. He is last seen in the afterlife discarding his weapons and armor as he walks off into the sunrise. So that's interesting that they showed that. So the third game is either in the sort of interim between, obviously the War of the Ring and the end of the second game, or they're just going to go in a completely different direction, or there won't be a third game at all. But let's be honest, there's going to be a third game. But yeah, overall, like I said, it's just more of the same. There were some small improvements here and there. There were some interesting additions and changes and things like that. And it's still fun to just run around and just slaughter countless orcs over and over. That's still fun for a while. And so that's enough this year to earn it the number 8 spot. Number 7 is a bit of an interesting one. It's actually an expansion. And that's XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. So this one I really did not expect to be this interesting. But, XCOM 2, when it came out, I bought it, I played it all the way through, I beat it, I enjoyed it, and then it was done. And War of the Chosen came out, I did not know it was coming out, it was just suddenly like, oh yeah, this came out today, it's an expansion for XCOM 2, and it's supposedly good. And so I bought it, and it's really good. It's really good. Like, it reinvigorated this an entire interest in XCOM 2 for me. And I played all the way through the game again. I played it, like, non-stop for a good while. And I beat it a second time, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like, rather than like DLC or something, this felt like an expansion pack. This felt like, Diablo 2 Lord of Darkness, or whatever the hell that is. That what it's called? Dude, if I blank on the name of the Diablo 2 expansion, Lord of Destruction. Sorry. Yeah. It felt like, Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, where it's just like, yeah, here's the expansion. And it adds all this stuff, and you're never going to play the base game again. Here you go. War of the Chosen adds... It adds, like, new enemies. It adds all sorts of new equipment and, new mods and things like that. It adds the Chosen, which are these, like, elite alien warriors and assassins that are trying to kill you constantly because they respawn and stuff. And so they keep coming back more powerful and more powerful throughout the campaign, and you're like, oh man, fuck, the Chosen's gonna show up, and you have to deal with that because they're really badass. But you feel great when you just shove your fist up a Chosen's ass and just wreck them. That feels great. And then they add like 3 new factions that you're sort of interacting with throughout the campaign, and you can get new character types related to these factions. So you can get Reapers, which are like stealth snipers. You can get Skirmishers, which are pretty badass. They have like grappling hooks, and they have like a little submachine gun. They're pretty cool. But then you have the Templars, and oh my god, my Templar, oh my, he was just so badass. He never stopped. He had like, they're like psionic, but they have like zealot like wrist blades and shit, and they're just, oh my god, it's so cool. And then they add like zombies, which I was like, when they first showed up, I did not know there were zombies in the game, in the expansion, and I'm like, oh, why does every game need zombies? But it's really cool because there's so many of them, and whenever you kill one, you get another action. Because you like headshot them, so you get another action, so you can shoot another one right away. So if you're good enough and you have the ammo, you can just like take down like 7 of them in a turn, and it's just like, oh man, this is so badass. Really, really great expansion. If you like XCOM 2 at all, and you've not checked out War of the Chosen, I really recommend it. Number 5 is a little... I feel like I messed up. Hold on, let me count how many games I have here. No, I have the right amount. Yeah, I have the right... Okay, I have the right amount. Number 6 is what I meant to say. Yeah. 10, 9, 8... Yeah, so, okay. 6. Number 6 is a little game called Super Mario Odyssey. So, I shit on the Zelda series all the time. Many of you are intimately aware of that. I just really... There's just so much to criticize with the Zelda series and many of its games. The Mario series, however, I feel is just so... It's like beyond criticism in a way. Like, it does so much right, and yet it also does so much that just does not interest me. Just so, I guess, bland is really the thing. And the game Mario games present themselves as, like, you know, the least bland thing ever. You know, they're so colorful and gorgeous, and especially Odyssey, there's just so many things in each level. There's so many things you can explore and interact with and all sorts of stuff. And yet the core gameplay to me is just... Ugh. It's just so boring. Because it's still the same thing as always. You just run around and you jump, and maybe you do special jumps. And now you throw your hat sometimes. And it's just... I don't know. It's just, you know... I'd rather play any Final Fantasy game, you know, for dozens of hours rather than play Mario. And so it was pretty surprising that I gave Mario Odyssey a chance. Because really Mario is just not my thing. I've never beaten Super Mario 64. I had that game, you know, when it was like brand new. I got my N64, Super Mario 64. I remember playing it as a kid, and it's just like, even as a kid, I was like, what the fuck is this? What? It's like, yeah, it looks great. You know, at the time, it was like, holy shit, look at this game. Look at how it looks. It's very attention grabbing. But, you know, you play it for 2 hours, and it's like, all right, I'm running around and jumping. Like, that's the end of it. Whereas, you know, I'm over here playing Final Fantasy VI. You know, I'm doing all sorts of cool, you know, strategic, badass shit. This is just how I think. You know, people could easily think the opposite. So Super Mario Odyssey, you know, comes in here at number 6 because it is really, really, really well made. Like, I cannot deny that. I cannot shit on it in the same way that I can shit on, like, Spirit Tracks or something like that. Like, it is a really well made. You can tell all the attention and love that has gone into this game by, you know, Nintendo. You know, there's so much detail. There's so many things to interact with, all these different levels and all the stuff that goes into this game. Clearly, it required a lot of time and effort. And so, you know, even me that really just does not care for Mario, you know, I played it for quite a while. At least as far as, like, hours. You know, I played it for, like, 3 days. But there was a lot of hours in there. It definitely kept my attention over the 3 days. And I beat the game. I saw credits, all right? I saw credits. If you're going to tell me, yeah, you haven't beaten the game, though, you didn't get all the stars or whatever the hell they are, screw you. I saw credits. You know, this isn't like Bubble Bobble or something in back in the day. If I see credits, I beat the game. And so, you know, I beat the game in 3 days, and it's just like, all right, I guess I'm done. And it wasn't like, I wasn't like running around and be like, oh man, you gotta play Super Mario Odyssey. It's so good. I can't stop. I can't stop playing. That's the thing. See, I could stop playing. And so this all sounds very negative, especially coming off of XCOM where I was all positive. And I just think it's because a bunch of people would put this as number one. I need to explain why it's not my number one. I think it's incredibly well made, especially for a Mario game. This is top tier for a Mario game, but for me, that's still only a number 6 for the year. Yeah, not much else to say. I had fun with it for the 3 days, and then I was done. Number 5 is Torment Tides of Numenera. So this is one I was very excited about. I was a Kickstarter backer. Obviously, I've played the pen and paper game, Numenera. I've played Planescape Torment, so smashing them together seemed like a really exciting idea with, the game design, the dialogue, and the plot coming off of Planescape Torment, combined with the just really, really unique setting of Numenera. Sounded pretty damn interesting to me, and they decided to really kind of take in the sort of the rule set of Numenera as for their mechanics of having different pools of might, speed, and intellect, I think, and different, the glaive and the nano, and, basically trying to port over the actual pen and paper rule set. That was okay with me. I'm not in love with the Numenera rule set. It's it's D20 and it's a little too sort of free form, and it's not bad, but it's not like the end all be all. I don't think they needed to use it for their PC game. But regardless, I was excited about the game when it finally came out. Actually, when they first released like a demo or something, it was like a playtest of just the opening. I was actually not that impressed with the opening, and I really still am not that impressed with the opening. I think it's a little abstract and not that exciting for an opening to the game. But I guess Planescape has a bit of a sort of dull opening as well before it really opens up. And the same is true for Torment. Because when the game came out, I played through it all the way. I really got into it. And I really enjoyed it. Because it does, is inspired a lot by Planescape Torment. It's sort of a spiritual successor. And I really liked the setting of Numenera. There were some really interesting things going on. And yeah, I'm a CRPG kind of guy. I just like the isometric view. I just like the way these kind of games play out. And so I think it was it's a well done example of that. Not the best one of the year, but pretty damn entertaining and a really nice setting. I'd like to see a sequel. Yeah. Number 4 is a bit of a cheat, I guess. It's Disgaea 5 Complete. And it's a bit of a cheat because Disgaea 5 came out in 2015 originally. And the complete version is sort of a remastering with all the content, the DLC content, released for the Switch this year. And so I've never played a Disgaea game before, but the Switch came out. I didn't have really any games for it other than Zelda. And so I was like, I might as well try out a Disgaea game finally. And this seems like as good as one as any. And so got Disgaea 5 for the Switch and just fucking blew me away. Like, where has this series been in my life this long? Man, yeah, I put a lot of hours into that game. I took my Switch all the way across Europe. I trekked across Europe with my Switch, and the only game I brought with me was Disgaea 5. I left Zelda at home, and I just played Disgaea 5, and really fantastic. The plot and the characters, I really just don't give two shits about. It's very just Japanese, and there's this humor, and I just don't care for any of it. And the plot is really just like, there's demons, and well, you're demons, but they're really bad demons, and there's penguins and whatever, and yeah, whatever. It's whatever. It's Disc. That's apparently how Disgaea is, and okay. But the gameplay itself, yeah, that's right up my alley. Just the depth of the leveling and the different, the grind is really like, you have to like grinding, and I like grinding within video games, and so yeah, I want Disgaea 6. And that's the worst part, is it's like, yeah, I love Disgaea 5, and it's like, oh, what are the best Disgaea games? And everybody's like, well, Disgaea 5 is the best one. Apparently, they like keep improving with every game. So that's what I've read. A lot of people say, which is great. It's incredible. But unfortunately, I need to just start with Disgaea 1 back in the day and evolve with the series. But now there's really, apparently not much point to go backwards. Yeah, really incredible game. Really a big surprise for me, because I had ignored this series for so long, and then I finally get my hands on it. I play it for just dozens of hours. Great stuff. Disgaea 5 complete. My number 3 is the other CRPG on this list. You've probably already figured it out. And that is Divinity Original Sin 2. So, Divinity Original... Well, okay, so way back in the day, out of a bargain bin, I'm pretty sure, I picked up Divine Divinity. Because I thought it was going to be like Diablo 2. And it was not really like Diablo 2. It seemed a lot clunkier to me. And I don't remember playing it for very long. It's just like, oh yeah, there's that Divine Divinity game with a really stupid-ass title. It's really just the worst. I don't know who cleared them to publish that game with that title. It's just awful. Divine Divinity. And so I sort of forgot about the series. It continued onwards. They had some sort of 3D games. They had like Divinity Dragon Commander and Beyond Divinity, and stuff. I was just, I don't care about this series at all. And then Divinity Original Sin came out, and this seemed like, okay, here's a real proper CRPG. And I was like, all right, we'll look into that. And I liked Divinity Original Sin quite a bit, but I never beat it. For whatever reason, I think I got decently far in that game, and I don't remember what happened, but I gave up. I don't know if it was difficult or I don't remember. But I remember liking it. I liked how, the interaction of various mechanics and the way you could combine elements and sort of different terrain effects and all sorts of stuff like that. It was a very interesting new approach for CRPGs. And so then Divinity Original Sin 2 gets announced on Kickstarter, and I'm like, all right, if it improves on the first one in a meaningful way, it could be pretty damn good. And so I backed it. And finally comes out, and of course it does, at least in my opinion, improve on the first game. And really, you do have one of the better CRPGs ever made. Just due to the combat systems and the way you can sort of again, you can interact with all these different elements, you can do all these different moves, and you really have a lot of options available to you with your battle tactics. And you can also use a lot of these things outside of combat. And, all this sort of stuff was introduced in Original Sin 1, but I feel like Original Sin 2 brought it together in a much more playable way, I guess. And so, yeah, I burned through the second game. I had a lot of fun with it. The final act of the game, I think, struggles a little bit. And I felt like I was doing really well. Like, because, well, when I played this, they nerfed it from what I understand. They nerfed it after I beat the game. But I went in as a summoner, so I was all in on summoning magic. And what I found on my own, and what apparently other people found, was the actual summoning spells themselves. You could summon like a big, like, brute kind of guy. That paled in comparison to a necromantic spell that you could use, which I used, where you summoned like a big bone spider. And so you summoned this big bone spider, and all the summons in the game, they scaled based on your summoning skill. So if you had super high summoning skill, which of course I did, your summons were far more powerful. And so apparently they didn't account for a non-necromancer, a summoner, getting the bone spider spell and using it. Because the bone spider with high summoning just completely shredded everything. Like, you summon it, you could easily one or two shot almost any enemy I came across. It did a ridiculous amount of damage, and it had an insane amount of health. It never died. I never saw this spider die. And so it's just like, okay, I never, you could only have one summon at a time. So I never summoned anything with my regular summon. I only used the bone spider because it was just so much better. It didn't have any special abilities like my normal summon, but when you're just killing things every turn, who cares? And so I loved it. I thought it was awesome because it was like, it just proved, it's like, oh yeah, it's the whole game is kind of like this, of you just sort of discovering things about the game and how it works, and these combos and interesting interactions and all sorts of stuff like that. I love that, and so I thought that was a great part of the game. And so after I beat the game and I learned they nerfed it, it was like, well, at least I got to enjoy it, and it was great. So yeah, Original Sin 2, great. I think a lot of people are looking forward to Original Sin 3, including myself. They really have some good stuff going on there. Number 2 is Horizon Zero Dawn. So you may remember I started an LP of that game back when it came out, and the introduction, the early parts of that game were really exciting. As you're trekking across, these gorgeous environments, and you're just sort of, learning how to use the bow, and you're encountering these weird new monsters and stuff like that. Really exciting start. And then there was a point where it sort of dragged for me a little bit. Like, once you get out of the starting area, go out into like the desert or whatever, it just was like, for some reason, it just started to drag for me. I was like, all right, whatever. And then Breath of the Wild came out, and nothing else mattered. As, I guess, a spoiler to my number 1. Nothing else mattered because I just played Breath of the Wild every single day, all day for, many days. And that was another open world game. And so when I was finished with Breath of the Wild, I still had Horizon, and it was just like, this is no Breath of the Wild. And so I just left it alone, and I was done with it. And then months later, when I was looking around for stuff to play, I was like, oh, Horizon Zero Dawn, I really didn't give that its fair chance because of the Breath of the Wild. So I went back to it, I started a new game, started fresh, went through the game, and I really fell in love with it. Played it for many hours, went all the way through the game, tried to, explore it all, sort of everything I could. The DLC came out as well this November, the Frozen Wilds. Bought that on day one, played it all the way through. And it's really, really, really a fantastic game. I think it got the shaft from me personally, just because it was so close to release date of Breath of the Wild, which I do think is a better game. But for a PS4 exclusive, I mean, absolutely best of the year for me. Gorgeous game, controls incredibly well, voice acted, the animations, really the animations are among the best ever in any game, for a lot of them. And yeah, just a really, really entertaining game. The story, it kept me interested, I would say, because it does have a very unique setting of sort of post-apocalyptic, but not like Fallout kind of. It was really sort of a beautiful apocalypse, which there's a band name for you. And I think it's a game that can be improved upon, with a sequel. I think if they sort of invest a bit more time into the skill trees and things like that, because really the skill trees are kind of a joke a little bit. A lot of the skills are just like, yeah, we should probably just let you do this, but God demands that we have skill trees in games now, so here, you have to work for this. But yeah, there's so many just really incredible moments in that game, both, within sort of scripted and designed to be incredible, and also just the organic moments of you're just out in a field and you're taking on this monster, and you're just creating by yourself these incredibly cinematic moments. Really incredible game. Can't wait for a sequel. I'm sure there's going to be one. I'm sorry I sort of overlooked it at first. All right, and number one, as I've already spoiled and you could have guessed before you clicked on the video, is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, Breath of the Wild, I've already talked about this game, plenty. It really, the reason it's so incredible to me, for me, is that it renewed my faith and respect in the Zelda series, which I thought impossible. I've shit on this series so much, more than any other series, and I just, the Skyward Sword comes out, and it's just like, whatever, just, ugh. I don't even care anymore. And then Breath of the Wild comes out, and it's like, I freaking care. Sign me up. And, when the game was in development and they were talking about this, they were showing it off for months, for years, whatever. I didn't care. I never paid attention to anything they were showing off. It was just like, whatever. It's another Zelda game. It's open world now, whatever the hell that means. And it's just whatever. But, it was coming out. I have to buy every console. So, of course, I was buying a Switch. And the only game worth buying day one for the Switch was Breath of the Wild. So, and, I was playing every Zelda game anyways. So, sign me up. I'll play it. And, yeah, it blew me away. There's really nothing else to say. And so I think, as many other people have said, it really was an incredibly impressive year for Nintendo. Because they're really, for the most part, they're selling and they're working with franchises that they've been working with for decades, like 30 years, of just, here's Mario, here's Zelda. We have dozens of these games now in these franchises, and yet, 30 whatever years later, they can still reinvent the wheel. And, I'm a bigger fan, I guess, of the Zelda series than I am of the Mario series, but both of them made my top 10. And so it shows that, they don't have to be gimmicky, this sort of gimmick Fisher-Price sort of video game company. They can step up to the plate and they can deliver, some of the best games of the year. So again, it's just really, like, you guys know me, you've been watching my videos, you know how much I shit on Nintendo, shit on Zelda. So for a Zelda game to be my number one game of the year, it's stunning. I would not have anticipated it. And so, yeah. But now the real problem is they have to follow up. They have to follow up Breath of the Wild. And at this point, they cannot go back to the old way of Zelda games. They need to take what they've done with Breath of the Wild and improve upon it even further. And that is perhaps even a more monumental task than creating Breath of the Wild in the first place. But we'll see. They've earned my respect once again. So, yeah. Like I said, not an incredibly amazing year filled with dozens of incredible games, at least for me. There were some other games here and there that I enjoyed playing, but overall, there was only really a handful of games that I was like, yeah, wow. Remember that game? In 10 years, I don't know how much I'm going to be talking about Prey. It's a decent game, but it's nothing like, oh my God. Whereas in 10 years, I will be talking about Breath of the Wild. I'll be talking about Horizon. It proves that open world games are still relevant. They can still be really good, as long as they are not made by Ubisoft. So there you go. I know some people will probably mention Persona 5. I'm actually playing through it now. I just got it for Christmas. To be honest, at this point, I'm about, I want to say 10 hours, 12 hours in, something like that. I just beat the first palace. It's very slick. It's very well put together, but it seems very repetitive to me right now. Really just seems like I'm constantly just going through motions. I know a lot of it is story-based, but the story is very rarely a draw for me for a game. So the gameplay has to be really good. And I don't know, the combat seems not bad, but I'll keep playing it, but I couldn't put it in my top 10 at this point. Maybe it could have beat out RE7. Maybe if you twist my arm, maybe. But anyways, that's my top 10 for 2017. Pretty decent year considering some of the gems we got. But we'll see. We'll see how 2018 holds up. I know what's going to be in the top number one. We'll see. Monster Hunter looks pretty damn good. But, all right, I guess that's it. So, my name is Mangg. This has been my top 10 video games of 2017. And I'll see you fine folks around.